Welcome, welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
And I'm going to go into the share right now. And we are coming to the last little chapter of the Parsha of Bereshit. But here we go. So remember the last time we had talked about Lemech and his wives and how Lemech had killed Cain and also Tubal-Cain. He killed both of them. And so his wives, Ada and Silha, refused to be close to him, to engage with him. And so we're going to keep going now. We'll see what this says. Goes on to what appears to be a different subject altogether. This sentence has to do with something that Lemech said, but look at the next sentence. Vayeda Adam od et ishto. And Adam experienced, if we're going to translate Yeda, right? Od, again, or more, with his wife. Vateled ben, and she gave birth to a son, Vatikra et shmo Shet, and called his name Shet. She called his name Shet, Seth. Ki shatli Elohim zera acher, for God has placed for me other seed. Tachat Hevel, in the place of Abel, ki harago Cain, for Cain killed him, because Cain killed him. So interesting usage of words, right? That because the word od can mean again, but it can also mean more. And generally od means more. Let's take a look here. And this is verse 25. Right over here. Vayeda Adam. And Adam had conjugal relations, right? But here's the background, because the question that we might be asking ourselves is, what on earth is this? How is this a continuation of the story of Lemech? What's the connection? And that's what we're going to find out, right? Ba lo Lemech etzel Adam harishon. So Lemech came to see Adam, the first man, right? The kaval al nashav, and he complained about his wives. Lemech complained about his wives. Amar lahem. So Adam said to Ada and Silha, V'chi alechem ledakdek al gzerato shel makom. Is it for you to investigate into the decrees of God? Remember, because he had said that Cain was to be avenged, and that is Abel's death would be avenged these generations later. Right. So I think the question that he's asking, that Adam is asking the wives, is, this is a terrible thing, but understand this is God's decree. This was a fulfillment of divine decree. Atem asu mitzvatchem. As for you, you should fulfill the commandment given to you, which is to be fruitful and multiply. V'hu yaseh et shelo, and God will do what he has to do. Amrulu. So the wives said back to Adam, Kshot atzmacha tchila. They said, excuse me, they said, Adam, but, justify your own self. Make sure you're okay. V'halo perashta mi ishtacha ze me'ah v'shloshim shana. Excuse me, but did you not separate yourself from your wife, refuse to procreate, refuse to engage in conjugal relations with him for 130 years? Mishe niknasa mita al yadcha, when in fact you had created the situation that human beings would be mortal, that when you were told to be that you were going to be punished and you were chased out of the Garden of Eden and you were no longer immortal, you refused to engage with your wife. Miyad vayada Adam. And as soon as Adam heard that, so it says, That's why immediately following this, it talks about Adam engaging in conjugal relations with his wife, etc. Umahu od. So what's this word od, more? Why is this word more in here? I mean, engaging in conjugal relations is engaging in conjugal relations. What do I mean by more? Lelamecha, to teach you. Shenitosfa lo ta'ava al tavoto. To say that his urge, right, his desire was even greater. There was added desire to the desire that he had, or his appetite, right, than his appetite had been before. He had even more appetite than before. So this answers for us a few questions, namely why the story continues right after the story of Lemech, and also what this word od is doing in the sentence here. Ulashet gamhu yulad ben. And as for Seth, he too sired a son, right? He begat a son. Vayikra et shmo Enosh, and he called his name Enosh. And then the Torah adds a comment. Az huchal, and that was when huchal, let me finish the sentence here. Huchal likro b'shem Hashem. And that is when they began to call in the name of God, of Hashem. And on the surface, this sounds very innocent, and if anything, it sounds like a wonderful thing. But that is not the interpretation of the tradition as to what the sentence really means. And we'll see what it means. Rashi's going to tell us. Az huchal. So first of all, Rashi points out that this word huchal, lashon chulin, it has the connotation of profane versus sacred. In other words, so for example, when we talk about the meat that we eat, that we buy at the kosher butcher, that whole subject of kashrut, of koshering meat, etc., comes in a tractate called chulin, meaning that this is meat that is profane meat as opposed to meat that was dedicated to the altar and that was placed on the altar. So it has to do with something, it's profane in that sense. Here we go. Likro et shmot ha'adam, they began to call the names of human beings, ve'et shmot ha'atzabim, and the names of idols, bishmo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, in the name of the Holy One, blessed be He, just to make this clear, la'asotan elilim, to treat them and to create them as gods, ulikrotam elohut, and to refer to them as gods. So here we are talking about 3 generations after the creation of Adam, and here people, this according to the Torah, is people started to worship idols. So of course, just the reverse. Instead of recognizing the transcendent divine creator, they started to impute power and all other kinds of things that one imputes regarding something that's divine. They attributed divinity to secular objects. See, I think that is it for the Rashi there. Yes. And with this, we finish up this chapter. So now we come to a chronology, you'll see. And I was trying very hard to figure out some sort of table by which to make sense of this chronology. And I had not, it actually was taking me a long time to sort of figure out how to set up the table. And I'll try and see, maybe we'll work on this together and maybe you'll help me make this table. So, Ze Sefer Toldot Adam. This is literally, of course, Sefer means the book, but Lispor also means to count, right? We talk about the Sphira of the generations of Adam. And so we're going to, in a way, this is saying, this is an account, right? I almost would want to call it that, of the generations of man. Beyom Vro Elohim Adam, on the day that God created man, Bidmut Elohim Asauto. In the image of God, he made him. Rashi. Ze Sefer Todot Adam. This is the book of Adam's generations.
Rabbi, why does it say demut instead of B'Tselem?
So it means essentially the same thing. The subtle distinction is not something that I could tell you right now. I'm looking to see
Does
if
that mean like blood?
it may be related to that word, but it really, okay, dama means to compare. In
Mm-hmm.
other words, it doesn't generally, even though we would translate it as image, domer means to look like or to
Okay.
similar to, whereas tselem has more of an idea of shape, and Demut has more of an idea of the fact that human beings are created in similar to divine, that they're given some level of divine quality.
Mm.
It's interesting, though, that this comes right after the previous sentence. Remember, the chapters are things that were given actually by Christians and were adopted into the Hebrew Bible. So in other words, likro b'shem Hashem, don't consider this, even though this is part of the Masorah, meaning a closed paragraph, and it does feel like a different style here. But nevertheless, the fact that it says Bidmut Elohim Asa'oto, and we just understood Likro B'Shem Hashem as being idol worship. So, yes, in a way, and I may be going on a limb here, that there is something to be considered in terms of how we understand the nature of humanity, but we're not God, and we should not consider ourselves gods. But nevertheless, we do have a lot of power and a lot of ability and amazing resources as creatures. So zohi sfirat toldot Adam. So this is a counting of the generations of man. Umidrashe agada yesh rabim. And Rashi's telling us that in the midrashim there are many interpretations and ways to figure out and to sort of sound out this particular sentence. Beyom bro, on the day of his creation, right? And so the fact that it talks about on the day, right? Rashi's going to give us a sense of this. All right. Magid shebayom shenivra hulid. What this is supposed to be telling us is, in a way, it's saying on the day of man's creating, right? Which beautifully in English has a double entendre, meaning on the one hand, we're talking about the creation of man, but when we talk about man's creating, we also could understand man himself creating. And that's the way the Rashi's telling us to take the Hebrew. That is, Magid, it tells you, Shebeyom Shinivra, that on the day man was created, Holid, he also begat. So, and this, of course, now becomes consistent with what we had read before. We are going to read that Adam was 130 years when he begat Seth. And that's the idea that he begat Cain and Abel on the day he was created. And of course, at that time, and we could say that Cain killed Abel, and very soon after that, and that after that, Adam did not want to procreate anymore. He didn't want to engage in relations. So that sort of ties together the story that we have of Lemech and his wives. And now we get into this table. Right? Let's see, let me just finish. I don't think I finished. No, here we go. Here we go. Zachar unkeva bara'am. Male and female, he created them. So we can see that here it's, both created. Vayivarech otam, and he blessed them, God blessed them. Vayikra et shmam Adam, and he called their name Adam. Understanding here what the Torah is saying is that the word Adam refers to the union of male and female here, Beyom Hibaram, on the day that he created them, that they were created. Vaychi, let's see if there's another sentence. Yes. Okay, on to the next sentence. Vaychi Adam shloshim ume'at shana. Adam lived for 130 years. Vayolid bidmuto betzalmo. So parallel to the divine creation, right? He begat in his image and in his likeness. Vayikra et shmo Shet, and he called his name Seth. So we are talking now about Seth. So let's take I'll keep going on this one, and then I want to switch over to the table that I was attempting to make, and perhaps I'll be able to do a better job of this table, because I know what I want to point out. Vayu Yemei Adam, and the days of Adam, Acharei Holido et Shet, after he begat Seth, Shmone Me'ot Shana, 800 years, Vayoled Banim Uvanot, and he begat sons and daughters. One more sentence, Vayu Kol Yemei Adam Asher Chai, and all the days which Adam lived, Tesha Ma'ot Shana, 900 years, Ushloshim Shana Vayamot, and 30 years, and he died. See if there's a Rashi. No, doesn't look like there's a Rashi. So I know that there is significance placed that he didn't make it to 1,000. And of course, we know he wasn't the longest lived human. We know that goes to Methuselah. But nevertheless, 930 years leaves you 70 years going to 1,000. And there is a connection made, a literary connection made with the life of King David, because King David lived for 70 years. And so there's some connection there of David filling out the years of Adam's life, and whatever literary connections one might be able to make in that particular factor. Yes, Lauren.
I was wondering if the reason that they were born the day that Adam was created had something to do like the because if Adam was created in the image of God and in a way with godly powers, that was kind of directly tied into the fact that he could create. And
Yes. Yes. I think that's great. I really do. I know that, I shared with you Dr. Brichto's interpretation of these passages. On the other hand, it does talk about the fact that they procreated after they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Presumably that all took place on the same day. That is, they ate from the tree of knowledge on the day they were created. They were chased out of the Garden of Eden on the day they were created, and they also sired and had Cain and Abel on the day that they were created. And that's all on one day.
Is that in some way like all the things that were created during twilight of the seventh day?
Oh, good question. I don't believe it's included. I do believe that because twilight of the sixth day, right? I think it would have been, meaning leading into the seventh day. There are other things that are mentioned specifically as, and that's in Pirkei Avot, I believe. I don't have the reference in front of me, but it talks about the specific things, and I don't think they're included, things that we're talking about now, that they did take place during that day. And again, how do we want to understand day? Is it symbolic in some senses? It's part of trying to understand on a deeper level what we're talking about. It's a great question, Judith, but it isn't. I think they list exactly those things that were created that moment. My memory is not taking me to these particular things.
So, all right, I gotta figure this out.
All right.
okay, so that day starts when they eat from the tree, or since they,
Remember, they
or
were
since,
created on the sixth day. Remember, they were
yeah,
created on
or
the sixth
all of
day.
this is 6 day stuff,
Yes, it is.
or
Yes, it is. It's
okay,
understood to all have taken
that makes
place.
the difference.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Go on.
So, okay, so anything, all of this stuff
Yes.
is the 6th day.
Correct. And what?
Gotcha.
And also, I want to add that the significance of Shabbat, right? Because remember, Adam was created on that day, and the day started to end, and he thought the world was coming to an end. And in fact, it turned
Oh,
out to be Shabbat. And so I can see some sort of emotional, how can I put it, reassurance that Shabbat brings with it, that there's sort of a reassurance that the world is not coming to an end. But that,
okay.
yeah.
So that little section in chapter 2 about Shabbat really probably should go after that.
Well, it's a different.
Maybe. I mean, yeah.
Okay, here's the thing.
In my brain, it needs to go after
I hear you.
that.
Okay, so we understand. Remember, in chapter 1, the emphasis is on heaven and earth. Chapter 2, even though it doesn't start there, it starts with Shabbat. Nevertheless, moves on to where we talk about the second creation story, talks about earth and heaven. So combining
So
them, right?
that's the 6th day. Seven
Yeah.
is the breakdown of the 6th day.
No, because
In
we
a with some with a little bit of whatever.
right,
No, because
we
fifth
we
and sixth. Oh,
remember we talk about it is mainly the sixth day though, Golda. I think you're right. I mean, remember we talk about the fact that the vegetation hadn't actually sprung out. It was all there, but it didn't spring out until man was created. Remember we talked about that? There
right.
had been no rainfall, etc. So, that's part of that. So I think your observation about the sixth day is really quite beautiful, even though in the previous story, the plants are created on a different day.
Right. So what we could take away from that is that other than day, is
Yes.
that this is really when creation starts.
Well, or it's a
Sort of.
manifestation of the experience of human experience and the significance of human beings and what is it to be a human being, right? We exploring that particular question.
Right, because all of this we have the merciful and judgmental God during this section.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Okay. Uh, all right. So I'll tell you what, I'll show you very briefly.
What building table, David?
I will show you briefly the table that I was referring to. I don't know if any of you have, I'm trying to think, there's a version of the Chumash where there's a table there, but let me see where I have it. Hold on a second. Is this it? I think this is, no, that's not it. Let me hold on a second. I'm going to stop this and find the share that I want to show you.
And what is the table illustrating?
I will show you.
I'm guessing it's the years and trying to figure
Yes,
out all that.
exactly. It's just a start. And let me go into it. Hold on a second. I'll show you. And then I'm mercifully in a position where I can work on it tomorrow. So here we go.
Oh,
This is what I'm working.
yeah.
So I'm listing the generations, right? This column here this represents the total number of years they lived. So Adam lived to 930 years, Seth lived to 912 years. This is the number of years Adam lived after the birth of Seth. This is how old Adam was when Seth was born. And this is how old Adam would have been when Enosh was born. So I also wanted this table to show you how many generations the individuals lived as to the if you follow me. So in other words, how old was Adam when Enosh was born? Was Adam still alive when Canaan was born? But each and every one of these people, I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out a table in which to do that as well, and not
I
just
once had a question. Did Abraham meet Noah? And we did that same idea, try to figure
yes.
out all the
That's
generations.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And
Can we put Cain in there because his family ends up important?
Canaan.
Yeah, for Cain. No, no, no,
Cain.
no.
Oh no, that is a different generational table because we're looking at Seth, Enosh. I'm looking at the
Okay, you're going down
in
that way.
chapter
All
5.
right.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So that would be like in a different. Okay, gotcha.
It would be a different, and we don't
We're,
have ages, by the way, with Cain's.
Oh, okay. That's
I'm
true. Okay.
wondering, so Adam and Eve were born on the same day
Yes, absolutely.
or created? I mean, they weren't
Correct.
really born, they were created.
Correct. Correct.
And
Man and woman to get man and
how
woman.
old were they
How old were they? I mean,
when
in
they were
what sense?
created? Where they weren't infants?
No, and we're told that they were. That's right. That they were
They're
fully
man
mature
and woman.
developed. Yes, they
Yeah.
were adult male and female.
Like God, who
Raised
is
by
an
God.
adult.
Which means
I
at
would guess.
least bar mitzvah age.
Yes, at least. Well, there's I think there's a lot to what you just said, right? And that is, it seems to me that possibly my great grandmother, like many women at that particular, in that particular time, quite possibly was married by the age of 12, right? The maturation of individuals took place a lot earlier than it does now. So yeah. And that's the whole point in some ways about bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, is that they're capable of being responsible. So with that, let's stop here, and I'll keep working
Oh
on
yeah, that's
those
right.
ones,
The
see what-
second one has the rib story.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Okay, let me stop.